I am Wendy O'Brien. I am 5'11" if I'm rowing, and we are listening to How We Roll.
When it comes to working in entertainment, there's a lot of hows, and they all boil down to how we navigate this wild industry. While how we follow our dreams is uncertain, how we roll along the way is in our hands. Welcome to How We Roll, a podcast for actors by casting networks. Hello, fellow actors. It's your friendly neighborhood host, Robert Peterpaul, and I'm so glad you're here. I find this to be an exciting window of time in our industry because summer blockbusters are blockbusting, a new season of entertainment is just around the corner, and the unofficial kickoff to awards season will begin with the Emmys. Speaking of, I'm so grateful to have an Emmy winner in the studio with us today, who is nominated yet again for her wonderful work on ABC's Abbott Elementary. Joining us to talk about the ins and outs of the comedic space is casting director Wendy O'Brien. Wendy O'Brien has amassed a 35-year career earning widespread acclaim in the industry. In addition to her celebrated work on Abbott Elementary, she's been nominated for Weird, the Robert Peterpaul story, the Al Yankovic story, and the HBO drama Carnival. Some other recent credits include the films Brian and Love Language, both premiering at South by Southwest Festival, as well as the upcoming Netflix flick Bad Day, starring Cameron Diaz and, well, another familiar face. She's also worked on Little Brother featuring John Cena and the new Netflix series The Hawk starring Will Ferrell. Wendy just finished the 5th season of Netflix's Lincoln Lawyer and the 18th season of FX's cult classic It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, along with Hulu's reboot of the series Prison Break. And the new Apple series, She's Fine. As if that wasn't enough, we caught up with Wendy in LA as she began work on the new season of Abbott Elementary and the 3rd season of NBC's Happy's Place. For any actor interested in comedy, but really any genre, this conversation is a true breath of fresh air. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Please share it with a friend if you do. For a chance to be featured on the show and get your hows answered, please submit them at Casting Networks and at Rob Peterpaul on social media or at the link in the show notes. Now here's How We Roll with casting director Wendy O'Brien. We're rolling. Hello, Wendy. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, good afternoon and good morning.
Yeah, hello, people of the future. We don't know what time you're listening, but
Yeah,
good day to you. And congratulations to you, Wendy, on all the Emmy love for Abbott Elementary. Always knocking it out of the park over there.
I'm so thrilled that the show's being recognized. It's so deserving. It's just a really special project to be a part of, especially in
Yeah.
this day and age.
Yeah, well, you always amaze me with your ability to build these ensembles that just feel so grounded and authentic and also wacky at the same time, which is kind of just real life when you think about it. So I can't wait to get into that with you. But before we get there, we always start with a more reflective question. So Wendy, what was your first gig in this industry and what do you think it kind of taught you as you look back?
Gosh, well, there's I guess different stages. I feel like my first big on my own was in Canada, and it was probably Highlander the series because there
Oh,
could be only
wow.
one. So
Yeah.
so that was like a big moment for me working on like an American project on my own.
Yeah.
But then I think when I went out on my own here in the States, it was a show, Tell Me You Love Me for HBO. That was a
Oh,
really
yeah.
big break for me, and Gavin Polone, gave me that opportunity. And then Sunny, jumping back onto Sunny after
Hmm.
working on the pilot in season 1, that's been just a wonderful job.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it also, I mean, just hearing you say this, I guess flashing forward, you've worked on some of the most entertaining and kind of iconic stories we have today in pop culture, from obviously Abbott to It's Always Sunny, as you mentioned, to I think Teen Wolf, The Walking Dead. I mean, a lot of casting directors that I chat with, it's so funny how, as an actor, our journey is so paralleled. And we kind of, as actors, can forget that you're kind of pitching as well. You're walking this like uncertain path sometimes. And a lot of casting I talk to talks about feeling pigeonholed a little bit. And as someone who I feel like puts their kind of Midas touch and rows through, you'll get that pun later, everybody, a wide range of projects, I'd love your thoughts on how you've been able to stay so diversified as a storyteller because you touch on so many different genres.
Yeah, I wish I could say that it's controlled or planned. I mean, I think as an actor, you understand too. It's like you know what you can do and what you want to do, but it's not ultimately up to you a lot of the times.
Mm,
And I don't know how. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to simultaneously do an intense drama and a comedy, and I think the yin
yeah.
and yang of it makes me better at my job because I can bring in some really funny actors into some poignant, dramatic pieces and vice
Mm,
versa. And you get to learn people's ability, or you get to try things and explore people's talents and abilities. And so that's a really lovely
yeah.
place to have that room to play.
Mm.
I wish I could say it was under
A
my
master
control. I've
plan.
just been really lucky. Yeah, I've just been really lucky. And it's usually a comment when I interview. People are like the producers are usually that my resume does reflect that. And
Mm.
again, it's phew,
Yeah.
grateful.
Well, lucky and talented. And I do feel like even within genres, which obviously you do work on a lot of comedy, there's so many subgenres. So you're kind of even changing it up, maybe accidentally and out of your control in a way, but within those realms, from the big sitcoms you work on to Abbott, like we said. And I guess what's your advice for actors on how they can identify the tone of a project when they're auditioning? Because even if it's a comedy, it might be a grounded one like Abbott.
Yeah, that's a great question because I think for casting for actors, I mean, we have such a parallel path. I think, doing some homework and knowing kind of what you're going in for. It's the same when I'm preparing, for an interview or when I'm working on a project. I'm trying to figure out in comedy, like, are you winking at it?
Mm.
Are you not winking at the camera? Are you playing it super straight? Like American Vandal, we played everything just real and
Oh, so funny.
so
Yeah.
good. But it was like you couldn't play anything for a joke. It was
Mm.
all meant to feel incredibly real, but it was ridiculous at the same time. You're
Yeah.
talking about, drawing dicks. So I think like in doing your homework and knowing what the show's tone is, watching an episode before you go out for it, sort of seeing where that level of comedy lands and
Mm.
and what they're going for. Like Abbott also is pretty natural.
Yeah.
Um, but then being aware that there's some potential, you know, there's a documentary crew that whether your character will or won't acknowledge it in an episode, that
Mm.
that you may not know ahead of time, but just to know that that is part of the show,
Yeah.
and not walking in blind. And hopefully
Yeah.
the show's on the air so you can do that homework.
Oh, yeah. And that always fascinates me too on a show like Abbott, the relationship that actors develop with almost their co star that is behind the scenes as the mockumentary and like who's filming that day. And I'm sure there's all these subconscious things of like, if they're giving someone a look, it's also because they know that person. And, there's like so many layers that I get fascinated by.
Yeah.
And with a show like Abbott, obviously it airs on that grounded side and we hear big and small a lot as actors. Go big and then we'll make you smaller or be small for television. I mean, do you think actors do something in auditions with comedy that makes it feel too big? Like on your end, do you see things that you're like, oh, if they just did this, it would be right on the kind of money?
I think for me, sometimes the joke is pushed too much and they don't trust that the words are already funny and
Mm,
that they can almost do less with it. And I think, Abbott again is such a beautiful example of they set up the joke ahead of time. So
hmm
it's building and it's coming, but a lot of times like Jacob's character, you just don't see it coming. And then
Yeah.
it makes the funny funnier. So I think in sometimes in auditions, people are kind of, you know,
Hmm.
getting ready with a little jazz hands, and you really don't need it. It's all set up. The words are
Hmm.
so beautiful and they're so well written
Hmm.
that you can just kind of come in and underplay it, and it will be almost funnier
Yeah.
than trying to overplay it, you know?
So true. And I love one thing you're so exceptional at too is almost the contrast of casting. I mean, having someone just appear like you said so differently than their storyline or the joke they're about to tell. And I've read that you love calling in wild cards who maybe
Yeah.
wouldn't be a fit on paper. I guess what makes you call someone in that sense? Like, is it like you're just looking for the total opposite of what the breakdown you came up with is?
I
It seems
think
like
it's
such a
always
fun process.
Yeah, it's always trying something new, and there are some projects that you don't have as much, rope to play with. But I think, especially now in when we're doing Zooms and when people are taping, you can kind of, I think, explore more. But even when we were in the room where you have less time to play, if you have a director
Yeah.
and you only have them for 2 hours, you have to be very efficient
Mm.
and see as many roles and try and kind of nail it on the day. But I think to bring in someone who hasn't had an opportunity or is maybe not how they've written it, but maybe this is a more interesting version. We've kind of seen that version a
Yeah.
few times, and so it was easy to write that. But what if what if it was different? What if it was a woman? What if it was,
Yeah.
like who knows what the challenge could be? But I think it just makes it more fun, I think, for everyone to see it in
Hmm.
a different way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people come in and they've read it the exact same way, like 5 people
Mm.
in a row may have delivered it kind of as written, and then somebody comes in and they just say it in a different way, and you're like, "I wouldn't have seen it that way, I wouldn't have heard it that way, but that is fantastic."
Mm.
And that's what actors bring to it, which is so amazing.
Yeah, you're making me wonder too. And I know everyone has different feelings on this on your end and because time is short, right? But are you someone who likes to see two takes submitted if they're contrasting?
We ask always for multiple takes,
Oh,
always,
cool.
always, always. And sometimes we'll get 3 or 4, and then we go through them, and sometimes we'll take one out when we submit it to the producers. But we at least got to see if there was something really unique or different, and I would rather that.
Yeah.
And so because not every audition you have enough information, right? Like
Yeah.
feedback stuff nowadays, we don't always get it. We can't pass it along. Agents can't always get it. So I think when you're taping, you don't always have all the information. So to
Mm.
try it a few different ways gives you a little bit more leverage of getting closer to potentially what the target is. So I think it's great.
Yeah. And you mentioned being in the room. I mean, speaking of fun, there's its own fun to be had virtually that we've discovered. But I wonder with a show like Abbott, I think a lot of actors assume you're kind of back in a studio for a final audition. Is everything kind of completely virtual for you now?
With Abbott is a lot because the kids, it's just so much easier
Yeah.
for kids not schlepping like an hour and a half each way on a school day. Um, but I would say we're about 50% back in the room.
Hmm.
The last 2 projects we did almost the entirety in live auditions, which was really efficient
Oh,
and it was really fun. And the biggest surprise was how nervous actors were. So for some people, it was their first audition
yeah.
since the pandemic,
Oh my
still
gosh.
like
Yeah.
in 2026. So that was wild.
Yeah.
And people are excited to be back, but they're also like, ah, crap.
I know there's
It's a muscle you have to sort of, it's a different muscle too than being on set. So it's like getting that back in shape is,
I know.
you
I'm
know,
still getting that back in shape. I just picked up pizza the other day and I walked in and the woman behind the counter was like, "How can I help you?" And I was like, "I'm good. How are you?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah." And I'm like, "Sorry, my brain." So like it is that kind of human thing. But I'll never forget I was a reader for ABC for Blackish and it was all
oh,
the little
wow.
kids coming through. And it was such a cool experience. And I'm curious about yours with working with children because they're so great. They take it so seriously, but there's such a range of authenticity that it kind of takes the nerves out of it in a way. Like you learn that it's not that serious, even though it is at the same time. So I
Yeah.
wonder, what has it taught you about getting to bring all these fun personalities into the classroom? Do you feel like it's changed your process in the room with actors?
That is a great question. Yeah, I think you always have to sort of be malleable, and there is a bit of play involved. And auditioning isn't that serious. Like, I think for us, it's always been a place to explore and
Mm,
direct in a session or redirect or just find it together.
yeah.
And so it's very collaborative. I find auditioning very intimate. Like, there's a trust. And especially with actors that you know and have known for, decades now, like there is a trust when you walk in that you're gonna make sure you're setting them up to succeed.
Mm,
And so I think Abbott with the kids, it's very much in that world because we're just trying to find kids that can be natural
mm.
and uh and be really real. And those are sometimes the funniest kids because they're just saying it like it is. And you're like,
Yeah.
it's so good versus, a more polished, like Nickelodeon kind of delivery.
Mm,
So I think that's been great. And then when they get to set, there's a whole infrastructure to make sure these kids just rock. Between on-set coaching, between the ADs, like there's just this
hmm.
amazing set experience that only enhances what they know or don't know for some of these kids.
Yeah. And then when you're watching, it really does feel like they're going to school, which is, I mean, the whole point of it. And it makes it that much more real and fun. I mean, I think kids are kind of exceptional improvisers in a way naturally. Like improv is sort of a skill that takes us back to being a child in a lot of ways. And it's such a valued, vital skill in the comedy world. And I'm sure it depends on the project, but how much of that do you like to see in an Abbott audition? Because network and improv, you don't always hold them sort of in the same category as an actor, at least.
Yeah, I think we are pretty scripted. So I think there is a lot of freedom on set, but I think, it's just the words are so beautifully written that
Hmm.
there's not really a need to stray too much. Even with It's Always Sunny, which, some takes they do very improvised
Oh,
takes on
yeah.
set. But I think I always ask, like, let's do it as written and then either do an alt or add a button, like add something really
Yeah.
funny at the end that's your own, that they can see a bit of your flavor or your comedy, but to also show that you can land the lines because sometimes it's important to get the words
Mm,
perfectly, right?
yeah.
So I think it just showing a little bit of both, that you can
Yeah.
do both of those skills is important.
Yeah. You're going like right in the order of my brain because I was very curious about buttons. I think buttons are so fun. I mean, not just on shirts, everybody. That could be fun too if they're like different colors. But a button in a comedy scene, do you like to see that in auditions?
I love it. I love it. I love a button. You did that in your Bad Day audition. You had different
Oh.
takes. So I think it's huge because it just shows a little bit of what you can create as an actor, especially if you're
Hmm.
really funny. A great button. You just I think it's a good showcase, even though it's a small moment.
Yeah.
And I just think they're really fun. Like I love it. I
Yeah.
really always recommend.
Oh, that's great advice. I
Yeah.
love it too. Yeah, and spoiler alert, everyone. Wendy and I worked together, although I didn't get to see your face. It wasn't a live audition. And now I'm like, she really does look like Laura Dern, everybody. It's so true. I know you say that, but it's so true. I'm just sitting here thinking I'm talking to Laura. But I had so much fun with that audition you mentioned because I kind of broke the mold. And I was curious about, for myself, not like in the greater entertainment landscape, but I wonder about improv in the sense of doing that, like breaking the audition self tape mold as far as like, not feeling like you need the pop up backdrop and the ring light. I mean, do you like to sort of see people do something a little different, whether that's the stacking little buttons in at the end or just like kind of having fun with it in that way?
I personally love it. I think the backdrop can be anything. I think as long as it's not crazy distracting, like I think it just can be interesting. People have done it in cars when it's
Oh,
been a
yeah.
scene in a car. That's been really fun. There was a scene when they were supposed to be like kind of running, talking, and they were like had a stick and they were doing it. That was really fun. Recently, this incredible actress did instead of, it was like little vignettes that she created that her character would then be uh talking about. So it was sort of like her
Mm.
behind the scenes, and she was adding these vignettes, but they were all just brilliant comedic moments. And she just sort of, wove them into her audition at the end. And just the effort and the ability that that took really showcased why she's such an incredible comedic actress. And that I
Yeah.
loved. I've watched it like 6 times.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
great.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know
Yeah.
y'all have these like amazing databases where you kind of save everybody's auditions. You can go back in on the platforms and kind of pull things. And so if you're including these other moments, you never know. That might be great for something else down the line too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is
And I
so
think,
fun.
yeah, and as long as it's not kind of gratuitous, like it's not a licking your own fur sort of situation where you're
Mm,
really doing it to enhance what you're auditioning for or just to show your love of the project. Or so I think as long as it makes sense and it's
yeah,
not just, you know, to like I said, like just to be gratuitous, then I think
yeah.
if it feels really genuine, then it's lovely.
I know my cat is literally licking its own fur. I'm like, stay down
Yeah.
there. It's fine. It's fine. Well, since you mentioned Bad Day, this is just a real life example. I don't mean to keep bringing it back there, but my next question for you was how much you collaborate with the writers? Because I remember improvising something in my audition and then I got the script and it was in the script. And so I wonder in the sense of, yeah, I know sometimes that happens and it can be rare, but it's like so unique and cool. So how much are you sort of like talking with the writers in that sense?
Not too much. I mean, we'll either get sort of we'll have like a pre-call to or with the breakdown, like what are you thinking? Is there anything specific we should know, specific age or and sometimes there's a lot of rhyme to the reason, like for the
Oh, yeah.
story, why it should be specifically as written. And then sometimes like, no, not really. Like, yeah, have fun, whatever if you want to try something
Mm,
or it's just open ethnicity, open age, open, gender. Like that's really fun. It just kind of it depends, but I think the writers watch everything and so they hear the words and then it is really lovely when you see, and I think Abbott does a great job of this. It's sort
yeah.
of helping to mold words and roles to that specific actor. They obviously can't do it for every guest, but I think they're very mindful of the voice that's saying the words.
Mm.
And so when a production has that time to be able to do that, I think that's when the writers really can enhance the project or enhance the lines even more because it even
Yeah.
sounds like a better fit.
It's so cool. And I mean,
Yeah.
mentioning that on Abbott, I mean, I'll say six-ish seasons in since we're talking about five, but you're actively having six coming out very soon, which is so exciting. I'm wondering, now that the writers know that main core group so well, when you're bringing these actors in and you're in like that sixth season of an audition process, what is most different for you from working on it season one?
We're always trying to represent Philly. We're always trying to have it feel like a real snippet into education and representing that world. So I think as the seasons get bigger, you sort of have more and more faces that you've kind of have this tapestry or mosaic of faces. So it's like what enhances who's already been on, what
Hmm.
adds to it, what have we missed, who hasn't been represented. So I think we're always just trying to be mindful of representing that and then also making it always interesting and having interesting faces that we haven't seen necessarily
Mm,
before.
yeah.
As a viewer, it's nice to have it feel fresh and
Oh,
different
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, maybe on Abbott, it's not as prevalent to have the improv, but that's such a buzz skill, not buzzkill everybody in comedy, although it can be, I guess, sometimes. I don't know what I'm saying there, but I wonder if there's an underrated skill you think actors should develop if dreaming of being on a show like Abbott. Like, I think we think comedy, we think improv, you think sometimes maybe going big or working on the jokes, whatever. But do you think there's an underrated skill that you would like to see more of or the actors you're booking have in common?
Well, this may not answer your question exactly, but I think listening is a huge skill that I don't know if we necessarily give enough importance to because I think,
Mm,
even in a scene where you're again, like using It's Always Sunny, but where they're mostly reacting to these guys being terrible people. And so when Abbott and Sunny collaborated, it's a lot of reaction, and that
Mm,
is sometimes mostly listening, but you're reacting. So I think that that is something I get gets missed in auditions sometimes. They're kind of
mm,
waiting for their line to then,
mm.
respond, but they're
Yeah,
not listening to what's being said necessarily.
yeah,
And so it gets it's like when you watch a De Niro in a scene where he's just listening. It's so active,
yeah.
and there's so much going on that you, as the audience, you're still engaged.
Hmm.
So if you're listening, you're keeping the audience engaged with you.
Yeah, you're so right. I think we forget too that people are just interesting as people. We think we have to add something on in comedy, and maybe it works, maybe
That's
it
a great,
doesn't. But it's like you can kind of just go on screen, like you were saying, say the lines a lot of the time, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that person is fascinating," and you're like, "I am." So I
yeah,
think
that's right.
you're so right there. I'm curious, technically speaking, because I love to get this information for actors when we can. On average, what would you say is a turnaround from, first audition to booking a show like Abbott? I'm sure it depends on maybe the tier of the role, but what would you say on average?
Oh, it's like days, like a
Okay,
day or two. Yeah, it's super fast. Like
that's fast.
the producers, Quinta, everybody watches the auditions like so quickly, and we're lucky if we get the scripts ahead, which Abbott's really
Hmm.
great at. So we can kind of start casting ahead, but really we're only working in theory like a week ahead of the shoot dates. So
Hmm.
everything is really a quick turnaround for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in those conversations with producers and Quinta, you've all been working together so long now, but what is sort of that magic thing you guys talk about all the time that you're looking for? Is it just they feel like they belong in Philly? Is there something that you're always going to gauge the yes?
I don't know if there's a specific, I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely feeling like they belong in the world, and the world changes, different
Hmm.
episodes, we're in different places. So it depends, if we're in Miami, that's
Yeah.
a different world than being in Philly. But I think I think it comes down to just who is making that scene, either delivering it forward. We had a scene where we had 12 parents all yelling at the mall, and
Hmm.
that, it was parent 1 to 12. And how are they all different? How are they
Hmm.
all kind of a choir together of these angry voices, and sort of, and who delivered a line in a way that you knew exactly where their head was at. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes it was about fabricating these pieces all together
Yeah.
in one big picture. So it's just different every time. Really,
Yeah.
it depends on what the story needs.
I know. I picture like the Last Supper portrait when you were saying that, but you just look at it and you kind of know. I mean, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time I looked at it, honestly, everybody, but I think that's okay. I wonder, as far as making choices, I think we're sort of butting against that right now, which is like you have the 12 parents in an audition. If you have someone that's maybe like leading with, they're clearly a very tired parent or they're a pushy parent, whatever it is. What is your advice on making a choice? Because I think that's another phrase that gets thrown at us a lot and sometimes can be a little bit ambiguous for folks as far as like listener questions that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to make a choice. I think you have to go into a role with a perspective. And this is, make a couple choices as who based on the information you have.
Hmm.
But what you don't have, and the information that you wasn't shared, that's out of your control. So what is in your control is these lines you have based on the information you're given, making a choice of who this character is, where they're at that day, and they're emotionally. Um, what is the scene about? Is it about this person, or is this just a conduit to get to
Mm,
the joke along the way? Like, is that it, where? What is your participation in the
mm,
scene, and
yeah.
kind of knowing where that falls. Like sometimes there's auditions where people are making a meal out of two lines, and it's not going to serve the story. We
Yeah.
can't stop here. We're on our way
Mm.
to this joke, so that's distracting.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
I
will you
think
sign for this? It's like, just. Get
Yeah,
in, get out.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it really is just it's about moving
yeah,
the story forward. So I think, making a choice, it's very clear when people don't because you're not quite sure either what the character is, who the character is, or their intention. So I think you do have to, whether it's one line or 4 pages, you really do need to come in with a clear perspective on what you're trying to achieve, where you're going in the scene.
yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's going to help a lot of listeners. And I do think it's also okay if it's quote unquote not the right choice for the moment. It's just
100%.
you want to see something, right? It's like they took a big swing and no one's going to
Yep.
fault you for that.
That's right. As long as it makes sense, it's not
Yeah.
just to be contrary or to have it be big for the sake of it, as long as it really makes sense. And
Mm,
that's what a director does. The director's like, great, let's just try it a different way,
mm,
to play on set.
yeah.
I think sometimes productions really want there have been projects where I've noticed they're looking for almost on the day performances.
Mm,
And that's frustrating sometimes because really it should be a collaboration and a process
yeah.
and and not just looking for the person who is delivering how you heard it and
Mm,
know that it's going to be on the day. Most people can, with direction, they can provide that. But what are
yeah.
the other ingredients that you might be not listening for?
Mm.
So that can be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, that actually made me think of, and then I'll ping pong back over to Abbott. But I went to a taping recently of a sitcom, and I was just amazed at how they kind of bang out these scenes in like one or two takes. So for that kind of comedy, do you look for a lot of people with like theater backgrounds? I mean, I know it's mostly established actors that are swinging through a lot of those, but yeah, what are those auditions like compared to an Abbott?
Multicam,
Yeah, yeah, like a multicam.
yeah, it is a little bit different. I mean, I think it's generally the same talent pool. I think some people are just I think improv is a little bit embraced a little more on a
Mm,
multicam, and like when I've gone to Happy's Place taping, they do alts and they'll play and so they have a lot of wiggle room on the different takes
mm,
to be able to explore and play and see what works and what doesn't. So that's kind of
yeah.
fun. And you're getting feedback because there's an audience.
Oh yeah.
So you're knowing if it's working or not working generally. So that's fun. So I think there is, it is a little bit, I don't want to say a bigger performance, but it is a
Mm,
little bit more performative in some ways.
yeah.
Um, so we do, the auditions are usually a little more animated or just a little more energetic, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, there's like that heightened energy. Even as an
Yeah.
audience member, you're there for maybe like 4 hours with your little lunch bag, and you do feel a little manic in the end because you're like laughing so loudly and smiling.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun to like be around that energy. And I mean, you see great co-stars and actors coming in and out of that, as well as Abbott to bring it back there. I mean, you've had such amazing luminaries walk through. In the case of where there's a great talent on the show, is it usually like you'll get a call from Taraji or someone's agent being like, they really want to be on the show, and then you guys find a place for them? Or is it the opposite? How does that work?
That's a great question. I think we have a running list of, people who are like fans of the show that our agents, will call and say, so and so's a big fan. If you ever have anything, they would love to jump on.
Hmm.
And so we sort of keep a running list that we'll then pass on to Quinta the writers to see if there's anyone that makes sense for something upcoming because we don't often know what's coming down the the pipe. They know in the writers' room. So, and then I think sometimes we'll get a heads up of, oh, this is a role. Here's a couple people we were thinking about, and then we can add to that while
Hmm.
we explore those names, and then we can be like, okay, they're not available, but what about, and then kind
Hmm.
of play that way. Like Bradley Cooper was specifically for Bradley Cooper, and I think
Oh
they
yeah.
had connected, and he's like, I'd love to be on the show. Um, so that was
So
specifically
such
written for
magic.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have a dream person that you've been trying to get in that you can share?
No, I mean, I feel like everybody's been saying yes.
Yeah.
I think we've been really, on the Philly group. I think almost everybody really has said yes. And
That
it's
makes
really a
sense.
lovely, easy lift. Like Bradley came in, it was such an easy deal. He was just no, like, couldn't have been more of a regular guy,
Mm.
as far as like not needing anything fancy and just came in and it was a quick day. It
Yeah,
was lovely. Yeah.
that's awesome. I want to see Dolly Parton come in and read the kids a book or something, like it.
Oh, I
I
know.
just
Although if only she was from Philly.
I know. I'm like, I try and put Dolly Parton on everything, and by try and put her on there, I just like bring her up to casting, and everyone's like, yeah, everyone loves her. We don't need you to say it, but
Oh,
that
she's
makes
a
sense.
treasure.
She truly is a treasure. I love how you seem to work with a lot of the same actors. You seem to really love to champion people, and I wonder, what do you think separates a one-off hire from someone you want to keep bringing in? If you can name it. I know that's a big question.
Well, I think there's a lot of ingredients that go into that. And, I've been I've had the same office for 21 years. So
Hmm.
in that
You can
time frame, there's a
drink.
lot of, yeah, that's right. Woo. Um, but there's a lot of actors that have come through multiple times. And every time they come through, I mean, sometimes if we have three different auditions in a day, I've had actors like come in, go sit outside, and then I'll do a different session and they'll come back in. Like,
Hmm.
so you really get a trust and a shorthand. And there are so many unbelievably talented people in our industry, and not everyone I think, gets enough opportunity. Most people don't.
Yeah.
And so everybody has their own different tastes, thank goodness. So it's not all the same actors for all the same people. But I think when people do a really great job, when you know you can bring them in and you have full faith that even if it's not going to be right for the project, it's going to be brilliant and they're going to challenge what the writer or director imagines,
Hmm.
that, or be that wild card, and it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, it's really easy to champion that.
Hmm.
Uh, Repetitively, but also like to give new people a chance. And we're always pre-reading and we're always bringing in new people. And sometimes people hit it out of the park, sometimes they don't. Or we brought them in for a role that doesn't suit them, but
Yeah.
we're at least just trying to see and meet them and experience that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's about
That's beautiful.
exploring, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it is really a trust and a love.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that you're leading with the love. And I know there's not always enough opportunities for everybody. I mean, there's crazy statistics in the SAG union if you want to go down that rabbit hole of how many of the actors are working at any given time, which is, I guess, part of the magic. Everybody loves it and wants to be there. But I look at your IMDb and I'm like, Wendy, you have a lot of irons in the fire. And so when you're working on so much creatively, and I know it might not all be going on at once, but how do you kind of, in a Pollyanna way, show yourself kindness and re-nourish? I mean, I hear you're a rower, which is super cool. I'm sure that's part
Yeah.
of it.
I do try and just check out. I mean, my family, I have a daughter about to go off to college in a
Oh,
week.
congrats. Oh my
So we're
gosh.
just to try and be home and spend as much time. One daughter just came back and one daughter's leaving.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so I think that's really rewarding. I have, a group of friends I play pickleball with
Hmm.
a few times a week, and then rowing is really important for me. So I have a lot of great outlets, playing mahjong now. So I
Hmm.
try and just detach from the stress of what the industry, the timelines,
Yeah.
that doesn't change. But I appreciate it, I think, more now.
Yeah.
I feel like, whereas before I just got on the train and was just,
Oh
in
my
it.
gosh. Yeah.
Now I'm really enjoying those moments and
Hmm.
those little pieces, because I feel very lucky that I'm still doing it, and I
Oh.
don't take it for granted.
Hmm.
I think anybody who's working is very fortunate.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we're lucky you're doing it because you just seem like such a kind person. So it's great to have
Thank
you
you.
as a leader. I wonder, before you go, if we could play a surprise game. It's called
Uh-oh.
Casting Keywords. And basically, Wendy, I made this game. So, like, is it a game? I don't know. But I'm going to throw out a keyword that you're familiar with. And you please just quickly share the best piece of advice that pops into your head. So
Okay.
I think you'll get it as we go. It's not too hard, but if you don't, let me know. Okay, so the first one here is headshots.
Oh, you do not need to spend money on headshots. An iPhone takes a
Oh,
great photo. I think as long as it represents you and you can see you and it looks like you, not you 30 years ago, uh, you do not need to put yourself out on money on that.
imagine someone like in their 30s, 30 years ago, they just send you a baby picture and you're like, I fully know that's not you now, but I love that. That's such great advice, especially because actors get charged so much for these things. So,
You
I mean,
don't need it.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what about audition nerves or mindset? What's your advice there?
I think it's great because it means you care and it matters to you. And so that's the first thing to sort of acknowledge is
Hmm.
you're still doing something that you care about and just breathe out and trust. Do it for yourself. You know, the audition is your time to work. You're getting to do what
Hmm.
you love to do and don't worry about the outcome. Let it just be that process for yourself.
Oh, Wendy, that's a beautiful perspective. I love that. Finding the right method or training.
I always align it with athletics, but I think you want to keep your muscles in shape. So when you're, put into play in the game, you are ready to go. So I think
Hmm.
training is important, or even if it's finding a group that you are consistently doing material, breaking down material, practicing auditioning together. Like even if it's something homemade, I think it's just the being in the process and keeping everything agile and fresh and not and sharp. I think keeping your
Hmm.
tools sharp.
Yeah.
However or wherever that seems to work for you and your pocketbook.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that addition. I wonder, is like going to the Second City, UCB, those things, is that still part of your and your team's routine? Like, do you look for people at those kind of
Yep.
showcases?
Yeah,
Oh,
for
cool.
sure. For sure. I mean, we've cast a lot of people from, you know, there's so many great comedians here that have gone through those
Yeah.
doors. And then there's a lot of people who take training there to sort of learn those those beats.
Yeah.
So I think, I think it's one of many places to look for
Okay.
sure.
You walked right into another place to look. My next keyword is social media. So, what's your relationship with that?
It's not great. I feel like I'm very glad there used to be a day where in auditions, a producer would be looking up how many followers. It just doesn't happen. I
Oh,
think that was one time
oh,
and
that's
one
great.
project.
Okay.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And we've auditioned a lot of people on, you know, both sides. It doesn't always translate.
Hmm.
So I am cautious with it. I don't think because you have a bazillion followers means you are a trained or naturally gifted actor.
Hmm.
Maybe, and sometimes it does translate, but I think it's a case by case. It doesn't, there's no guarantee.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. What about when someone's booked and they're on set? What are your thoughts on set protocol?
I think be a gracious guest. I think be there to do your job, be grateful. Less is more. You don't want to be
Hmm.
remembered for the wrong reason. So I think you're coming in and sometimes you're there, you're joining an ensemble that has such a relationship and a rhythm, and you don't want to upend that. You want to seamlessly help that progress, and then you go home.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's the best feeling. Okay, the last one here is this happens on set sometimes, which is also the best feeling, but can be a money burner, which is getting the giggles. But have you like seen that happen on sets? Or I mean, I feel like in comedy it happens fairly often.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm not on set usually when they're shooting,
Hmm.
but certainly in the audition rooms, there's times I've had to leave. I just can't. I can't fit through the scene. And then those make the best blooper reels at the end of
Yeah.
the season at our wrap parties. They'll play a blooper reel,
Oh
and
my
you'll just see
gosh.
the same scene, and
Oh,
the
that's
kids
so fun.
can't get through it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's delightful.
It's the best. Well, I think you're delightful, and I know I got to let you go, but I would appreciate if we could end our time together with a gotten and or a given. So the best piece of advice you think you've either gotten or have to give.
I feel like I've probably gotten part of this, but I've also given it. But I believe it is certainly for casting, as we want everybody who walks through that door to get the role. And so
Mm,
our job is for everyone to come in and nail it. Because if I bring in five people and all five are incredible, it's a win-win-win for everyone. So just to have the knowledge and the belief that we're rooting for you and
mm,
we want you to succeed. And that is a huge part of our job is to be that conduit to get you through the door.
mm,
Um, and onto set, and we open doors, but it's up to you to decide if that role is interesting and you want to walk through it. But
mm.
we're just, you know, we're really our conduits, and champions for
Yeah.
actors to evolve and to grow.
Mm. Dream makers, I would say, Wendy. And I'm
Uh,
rooting for you, especially with Abbott and all the
Thanks,
things.
Robert.
Congratulations again. And I feel grateful that as an actor, we have folks like you in this industry that are, leading with the good. So thanks for being you and thanks for being here.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. It's really nice to see you.
You too.